The man who lost everything, Daniel Walker, stood alone on the rooftop of a 20-story building, staring at the city lights below. Just 3 years earlier, he had everything most people dreamed of. A successful company, a beautiful house, luxury cars, money, respect. People called him a genius entrepreneur. Business magazines featured his picture. Investors trusted him. Employees admired him. His future seemed unstoppable. But life can change faster than anyone expects. One bad decision, one unexpected crisis, one terrible year, and suddenly everything disappeared. Daniel's company collapsed during an economic downturn. Major clients left. Investors pulled out. Banks demanded repayments. Within months, millions of dollars vanished. The company he spent 15 years building was gone. His reputation suffered. Friends disappeared. Business partners stopped answering calls. The same people who once praised him now criticized him. Then things became worse. The stress destroyed his marriage. His wife, Olivia, moved out. The house was sold. The cars were repossessed. And at 40 years old, Daniel found himself living alone in a small apartment. Every morning he woke up feeling like a failure. Every night he went to sleep wondering where everything had gone wrong. The worst part wasn't losing money. It was losing his identity. For years he had believed success defined who he was. Without success, he no longer knew himself. One rainy afternoon, Daniel attended a job interview. The interviewer was younger than him, much younger. Daniel answered every question carefully. He explained his experience, his achievements, his skills. At the end of the interview, the manager smiled politely. "We're looking for someone who fits our current needs." Daniel knew what that meant. The rejection email arrived the next morning. Another one, just like the dozens before it. That evening he sat alone in his apartment. Bills covered the kitchen table. The refrigerator was nearly empty. His savings were almost gone. For the first time in his life, he felt completely defeated. His phone rang. It was his older sister, Sarah. Daniel almost ignored the call. But eventually he answered. "How are you?" she asked. "I'm fine. You don't sound fine. I'm managing." Sarah remained silent. Then she said something that irritated him. "Come spend the weekend with me." "No, Daniel, I'm not in the mood." "That's exactly why you should come." After several minutes of arguing, Daniel finally agreed. Sarah lived in a small town nearly 4 hours away. The following Saturday he drove there reluctantly. He expected endless advice, motivational speeches, pity. Instead, Sarah handed him a cup of coffee and said, "Tomorrow morning we're going somewhere." "Where?" "You'll see." The next morning they drove outside town. Eventually they stopped at an old farm. Daniel looked confused. "What are we doing here?" Sarah pointed toward an elderly man working in a field. "Meet Henry." Henry Thompson was 78 years old. His clothes were covered with dirt. His hands were rough from decades of work, but his eyes carried an unusual warmth. Sarah introduced them and left. Daniel felt awkward. "So what exactly am I supposed to do here?" Henry smiled. "Help me." For the next several hours, Daniel worked beside him, repairing fences, moving supplies, cleaning equipment. The tasks were simple but exhausting. By sunset, Daniel's back hurt. His hands ached, and he felt strangely satisfied. Over dinner, Henry finally asked, "So tell me what's bothering you?" The words poured out. The failed company, the lost fortune, the divorce, the embarrassment, the fear, the loneliness, everything. When he finished, Henry quietly nodded. Then he asked, "Who are you?" Daniel frowned. "What? Who are you? You know who I am." "No," Henry leaned forward. "You told me what happened to your business. You told me what you lost. But you never told me who you are." Daniel stared at him. "I don't understand." Henry smiled. "That's the problem." For several moments neither spoke. Finally, Henry pointed toward a large apple tree outside. "See that tree?" "Yes." "If a storm destroys every apple on that tree, does it stop being a tree?" "No." "If all the leaves fall off, does it stop being a tree?" "No." "If branches break, does it stop being a tree?" "Of course not." Henry nodded. "Then why do you think losing money means you stopped being you?" The question hit Daniel harder than expected. For years he had confused what he owned with who he was. The two had become inseparable. Maybe that was why losing everything hurt so much. The following weekend, Daniel returned. Then the weekend after that. Soon helping Henry became a routine. As months passed, Henry shared lessons gathered from nearly 8 decades of life. One afternoon he said, "Most people build their lives backward." "What do you mean?" "They build success first and character second." "And that's wrong," Henry nodded. "When success disappears, they have nothing left." Daniel thought about those words for days. Another afternoon, Henry showed him an old wooden box. Inside were photographs, letters, memories. Daniel noticed pictures of a woman. "Your wife!" Henry smiled. Emma. There was sadness in his eyes. She passed away 20 years ago. I'm sorry, Henry nodded. I loved her more than anything. Daniel hesitated. How did you survive losing her? Henry looked toward the horizon. I didn't survive it. What? I grew through it. Daniel frowned. There's a difference, Henry continued. Surviving means returning to who you were before. Growing means becoming someone new. Those words stayed with Daniel. Weeks became months. Months became a year. Slowly Daniel changed, not because his problems disappeared, but because his perspective changed. He began exercising again, reading again, meeting people again, living again. Eventually he found a modest job managing operations for a local company. The salary was much lower than before. Yet strangely he felt happier. The work mattered. The people respected him. And for the first time in years, he wasn't measuring his worth through money. Then one autumn evening he received unexpected news. A former colleague called him. A new startup needed leadership. The owners wanted Daniel. The opportunity was enormous. Old Daniel would have accepted immediately, without hesitation, without questions, but now things felt different. He spent days thinking. Finally, he visited Henry. What should I do? Henry laughed. You're asking the wrong person. Why? Because you already know? Daniel smiled. Maybe he did. After careful consideration, he accepted the position. But this time he approached success differently. He focused on people, integrity, purpose. Patience, not just profits. Years passed. The company grew steadily. Employees trusted him. Customers respected him. The business became successful, very successful, yet Daniel never forgot the lessons learned on the farm. Then one winter morning he received a call from Sarah. Her voice sounded different, sad. Henry passed away last night. The words felt like a punch to the chest. Daniel drove to the farm immediately. Snow covered the fields. Everything looked quiet, peaceful. At the funeral, hundreds of people attended. Farmers, teachers, business owners, students, families, people from every walk of life. Daniel was shocked. He never realized how many lives Henry had touched. After the service, a lawyer handed Daniel a small envelope. Inside was a letter. Daniel opened it carefully. The handwriting was unmistakable. Daniel, if you're reading this, I'm gone. That means one final lesson remains. You once believed losing everything was the end of your story, but it wasn't. It was the beginning. The hardest seasons often produce the strongest roots. Remember this, money can disappear, fame can disappear, careers can disappear. Even people we love can disappear. But character stays, kindness stays, integrity stays, and those things matter most. You thought you lost everything. The truth is, you only lost the things that could be taken away. The things that truly mattered were inside you the entire time. Live well, help others, and never forget who you are. Your friend Henry. Tears filled Daniel's eyes. For several minutes he simply stood there, watching snow fall across the farm, thinking about the man who had changed his life. Years later, Daniel often shared Henry's lessons with others, young entrepreneurs, employees, friends facing difficult times, anyone struggling after failure. And whenever someone told him their life was over because they had lost everything, Daniel would smile gently and say, "No. If you're still breathing, then you haven't lost everything. You still have the chance to rebuild. Sometimes losing what you thought was everything is the only way to discover what truly matters." And every time he said those words, he remembered an old farmer who taught him that the strongest people are not those who never fall. They are the ones who find the courage to rise again after losing it all.